What the fudge? Sometimes I don't like living in the South. So ladies, it's your girl Cupcake Kavara again. This is actually going to be a little bit of an odd one, but I think you'll see where I'm going with this. I was thinking about very recently how when I was going to college, I went to an art college, by the way, yes, I was one of those kids, where the professor would tell us that we had to learn the rules. Then he'd turn around in the next breath and say rules were meant to be broken. Now mind you, I was the quiet student, I didn't say a lot, but several students would actually ask the question of, I'm an artist, why does this matter? And it's funny because as I grew older, I better understood what he meant, and I just thought I'd voice my thoughts on it with an example to help maybe someone else who still doesn't understand it, because it is a kind of, it's a balance, and it's not an easy balance. It's a balance that takes practice. So first of all, let's talk about what a rule is. A rule isn't necessarily something to say you never do this, you never do that. It's especially in the sense of art and in actually many other disciplines, but I'm specifically talking to art right now, and you've seen one of my other videos, you'll understand why this applies to my channel. Rules are kind of more like a language. So when you understand why the rules were put in place and what the rule does, you can then more effectively break the rule. So, for example, I'm going to use some of my art history knowledge and talk about Georges Perret-Seurat's A Sunday on Le Grand Jeté. It was done in 1884, and honestly at the time, art critics hated it. This is kind of like a reoccurring theme you'll notice throughout not just art history, but just history in general sometimes. The people who know the rules and get trapped by them sometimes are the ones who are probably going to be your harshest critics. And yeah, sometimes it could be jealousy, it's true, but usually it's because they only ever see the rules. They don't necessarily see the breaking of it. Now, Impressionism, which is where he falls under, at this time was well established. This was in Paris, and there was almost a whimsical quality about it. It was more about capturing the fleeting moment, and there was often a lot of movement. And in this painting, you can see that there isn't a lot of movement actually going on. They're drawing inspiration from ancient Egyptian art and Greek art, which also spoke on a lot of the same things. Ancient Egyptian art was usually used in the burial of the dead and trying to preserve things for their afterlife and so on and so forth. He used the concept of this unchangingness in his art. The art critics didn't like it. Fun thing is that he was actually kind of using it as a science experiment, so to speak, because he was fascinated by the study of colors and light at that time. And in fact, even though he's considered the father of neo-impressionism and pointillism, he actually didn't like that name. He actually liked chromoluminescence, I believe, as his actual name, because it was actually a study of how the human eye will actually take colors, and as long as they group together close enough, will actually make a new color. This was actually what this piece of work was about, but they didn't get that. He broke a lot of rules in this painting, even among Impressionists, which were known to be rule breakers. He did not use actual color, or the localized color. He did not mix the color on the palette and then paint it in the spot so that everybody knew that that skirt was blue. He used multiple different colors to make that skirt blue, and he used multiple different colors to make the darker part of that skirt, including the shadows. He did not draw lines, he used dots that implied a line. He captured the fleetingness of a moment. He didn't capture any of that. He also did not necessarily fall under the unspoken rule of conformity and expectation because he was an Impressionist. I could go on a tangent there, but I'll leave that to your imagination. He didn't do any of this. He broke these rules. Georges Seurat himself was actually quoted for saying that some people see poetry in my paintings, I only see science. But his artwork worked because he knew how to break the rules. He actually knew the rules extremely well. Sadly, Monsieur Seurat's life was pretty short. He only lived to be 31. He actually did this painting when he was around 22, 26. I think it was 26 when he did this painting. So, despite the fact that he did not necessarily live a very long life, the power of what he did, by breaking the rules, might I add, is very lasting. He actually influenced people like Vincent van Gogh. Why did I say all of that? Because I wanted to show you the power of breaking the rules when you know how to break the rules with information. Why were the rules put in place? What was the rules' purpose? And if you break them, understand people may not like it, but if you just randomly break rules without knowing why the rules were placed there, you'll probably come off looking all over the place and a little bit like an idiot. That's just sadly the place it is, because you won't be effectively communicating to everybody. The rules operate like almost a semi-universal language. I understand all of this. So when you break that one rule, those two rules, those three rules, I understand what you're saying, or you're trying to say. I get an image of what you're trying to say, versus I just see mess. That's why rules are important. Learn your rules. Rules are meant to be broken. That phrase is supposed to be together in my mind. They're not supposed to be separate. Art critics, and I do see the trap of several other critics as well, and really in general, will sometimes be the ones trapped by the rules. They know the rules so well. They've seen people always follow the rules. It's supposed to look like this. It's always supposed to look like this. And when it doesn't, the knee-jerk reaction is, I don't like it. Everybody does it. I do it. I try not to let myself do it, which is why sometimes I'll actually take breaks when I'm playing a game, reviewing something, reading a comic. There are times where I have to take a break, step back, and see if they're trying to tell me something. Sometimes they aren't. Sometimes it's just bad. It happens. Sometimes they are. I don't personally like it. And that's where the confusion comes in. Don't confuse what you just like with what the person is trying to do. If you don't like it, say it. That's fine. It's okay. It's art. It's up to interpretation in that respect. But when you understand the rules, you actually start to be able to look at things that you don't like. And this was something that I learned in art school. This is one of the rules I learned in art school. Because I've learned all the rules, I can look at things that I don't really like. I think they look like trash. But I can usually tell when that person knows the rules and what rules they were breaking, and understand why it's considered art and why a lot of people like it. It's the same with music. That work, by the way, that work is bigger than most people think it is. It's 7 by 10 feet or so. It is not small. So when you see that artwork, it is not a little picture you could like just put on the wall. It's huge. It's big. So when you approach it, that effect is almost invisible until you get up to it. It is not a tiny picture. So, get that out of your mind. It's one of the most reproduced and parodied pictures in art history, in the history of art. And you can find so many different versions of it. I kind of want these two myself because they're awesome. All because he broke the rules. If you want to be different, that's fine. Learning the rules do not actually hinder you. They only hinder you if you allow yourself to be trapped by them. Maybe people in power who see the way you broke the rules and don't like it because it doesn't fit their personal set of rules, or it doesn't fit the initial framework of rules, even forgetting why the rules were put in place. Maybe the rules are wrong. That's fine. But I want you to not make the same mistake as me when we were in college of thinking that art means being a complete rebel. You are, but you're a thoughtful rebel. Rules and understanding why rules were made is necessarily fun. Don't get me wrong. But it is something that I feel that is kind of necessary in order for you to make more well-rounded creations and practice, because nothing's really gonna beat practice. Eventually, the first few times, it's probably gonna suck. That's just the reality of it. As you learn what rules you can break, why do you want to break them, and once you get the rules down and then you start breaking them, you break them with purpose. And when you start breaking rules with purpose and with thought behind it, you'll make a bigger impact. But that's just me. Just something I thought about when I was remembering my college years. Do the math. Anyway, that's it, lords and ladies. And I thought I'd record this really quick. I haven't eaten yet, and it's well after 3, so I think I am going to eat now. Anyway, this is Cupcake Bar with Moderately Classy. If you liked what you heard, leave a like in the comments below. If you want to hear more, hit the subscribe. If you have any suggestions, thoughts, subjects you'd like me to cover, leave me a comment below. I'll try and see what I can do for you. See you lords and ladies later.